Welcome to our third theory under Deontological Theory of Ethics, and this is the categorical imperative. So, our previous lectures, we talked about the first theory under deontology. This is the divine command theory, which equates ethics with religion, and what is good is what God commands. The second is the natural law theory, which basis for morality is found in our nature itself, or in the natural law that pervades the universe as guide, and our reason detects or understands these universal laws in nature. So the third theory behind deontology is Immanuel Kant's categorical imperative. Immanuel Kant is known for his deontological ethical theory called categorical imperative, which argues against the consequentialist theory as well. So again, this is still a deontological theory in ethics. However, he does not agree with the divine command theory because he believes that every person is a source of moral laws as a rational individual, and therefore a lawmaking member of a moral community. So for Kant, the source of morality or moral laws is the rational individual. Okay, recall that in the divine command theory, the source of morality is God. Moral laws are not imposed on us from an external authority, as the divine command theory suggests. Likewise, he disagreed also with the natural law theory. Because if good actions spring from our natural inclinations, diba? If you remember, the basis is natural inclinations. These are the good ones, no? Which we should pursue. And the inclinations that we have that are not rational should be avoided. These are the bad things. What does this mean? For a Kant, if this is the case, natural inclination nanggagaling sa ating sariling nature, then these actions would have no moral worth. So, medyo maganda tong point ni Kant dito. O nga naman, anong silbi na gumagawa ka ng tama kung natural pala sa'yo yun? Diba? Parang walang worth yung moral action na nanggagaling sa naturalesa natin. Right? Okay, so, example nito is yung bata, no? Ilocano culture natin. Yung bata, in her young age, we cannot expect a child to be behaving like or exhibiting the maturity of an adult, right? We don't expect that from a 3-year-old. So, we understand that it is but natural for 3 years old individuals to have fun, not knowing that what they're doing is actually bad. That's because that's when we tell them, right? Pero it's natural sa kanila yun, ha? Pero there are instances when young children exhibit mature behavior, and that's the time in Ilocano when we tell them na adanakem na jay ubing. Anong ibig sabihin nun? May worth yung ginawa ng bata doon. Kasi, naturally, hindi niya dapat alam yon, di ba? So, parang, hindi lang galing sa kanyang nature, pero, may ibang pinanggalingan yung kanyang talino or kanyang mature behavior na dapat praiseworthy. Gets niyo yun? May worth yun eh. Kasi we don't expect it from a child. But the child nevertheless did it. Di ba? So, meron siyang worth. That's why it's praiseworthy. Kaya, see, if morality emanates from our nature, then it is our nature to do the good. Okay? And hence, our good acts then are not praiseworthy. Anong ipipraise mo kung talagang naturalesa natin yan, right? So, a change also in our natural inclinations would also mean a change in morals. Okay? Yun din ang problema. Kung nagbago yung nature ng tao, di magbabago rin yung natural inclination. And Siyempre, pag nabago yung natural inclination, which is the basis for morality, does that mean na nagbabago yung morals? So, ayaw ni Kant yung idea na morality can differ from one person to another. Because we can establish morality as what? So, let's move on. So, the only basis for morality is the rational will and not desires or inclinations. Our moral obligations are known through reason alone and not through experience. See? So, it's not from nature or desire, and it's not from experience, pero reason alone. Okay? Through reason alone. Tapos, the basis is the rational will. Our reason can reveal moral principles without the aid of experience. Ito yung ibig sabihin ng a priori. A priori means we know it even before experience. So what Kant is trying to aim here at is to show us that morality is something discoverable by every rational individual regardless of experience. Okay. So, hindi ito something na natututunan natin sa pamamagitan ng karanasan. Okay. Umanayan, di panunot, no? Enough yung mind natin, yung reason natin to understand. Quote-unquote, every empirical element, meaning empirical is experiential, is not only quite incapable of being an aid to the principle of morality, but is even highly prejudicial to the purity of morals. Kung ibabase nga natin sa experience yung morality from Kant's view, pwede kasing iba yung desire ko, iba yung karanasan ko sa inyo. So that means, if karanasan is basis, then that would mean that morality also can differ from one person to another. Kaya nga, prejudicial to the purity of morals, yung experience. For the proper and inestimable worth of an absolutely good will consists just in this, that the principle of action is free from all influence of contingent grounds. Contingent grounds is things that change, no? Things that are not permanent, no? Experience, mga bagay-bagay sa mundo. Okay. Morality for Kant is not contingent but necessary. Let's see. Let's moving on. Since morality is not grounded on natural inclinations and experience, it is therefore regarded by Kant as necessary, absolute, and universal. Yan na. Pag sinabi mong necessary, kapilitan. No? It cannot be without. Necessary yan. No? Pag ibig sabihin yan is, lahat ng tao, alam na alam at malalaman nila yung morality as based on reason. Okay. No excuse kasi necessary siya. Absolute, wala nang iba. Okay, ito na yung pinaka-basis. And universal, no? True to all. Walang exemption. As such, it is not instrumental but intrinsic. Again, intrinsic means valuable in its own right. Hindi siya instrumental na kasangkapan lang siya to achieve another good which is better. Hindi ganon. Okay? Morality has intrinsic value. Okay? Morality is not a means to a further end. Okay? It is good in itself. There is only one such good intrinsically. And Kant identified that as goodwill. Will here is understood as intention or motive. Okay? Hence, a good person is one who does something right and does it with the right reason or motives. Okay? dalawang condition. No? Diba? Usually, ang mabait na tao is yung taong gumagawa ng tama. Pero kay Kant, hindi enough na gumagawa ng tama. Kailangan din na with the right reason and motives. Okay? Now, let's focus more on this. Goodwill. Ano ba itong goodwill na pinagsasabi ni Kant dito? Okay. Sabi ni Kant, yan lang daw talaga ang intrinsically good. Paano yung other goods? Like for example, ayan na, no? What about other goods and virtues identified in our previous discussions? Like what? Intelligence. Diba? Good din ang intelligence. Wit. Judgment. Courage. Resolution. Perseverance. Honor. Self-control. Health. Faith in God. Authority. Power. Service. And many more. In fact, you can identify a lot more. Okay? Kant argues that without goodwill, all this can be used for evil means. Ano ibig sabihin nun? Ito daw, hindi daw to talagang good na good. Bakit? Kasi pwedeng magamit yan for evil means. So, the only aspect that can make all this good is a goodwill. Okay? Clarify natin mabuti yan, no? Okay. Consider the following examples of values and virtues used by a bad will with a wrong motive. Knowledge is good. Alam natin yan, but a knowledge of chemicals and elements can be used to manufacture illegal drugs, which motive is to earn money at the expense of other people. Sabi, nga no, di ba? Intelligence, knowledge is good, pero if you don't have a good will, pwede itong magamit sa masamang gawain. Service is good, but without a good will, it could be used to further personal interest, as in a politician who wants to secure a re-election. Again, ginagawa ng politician ito, no? Notice that sometimes politicians, sabihin ko na lang natin sometimes politicians are seen to be doing something good, like nagbibigay ng tulong, lahat-lahat. Pero ano yung motivation niya, no? To secure re-election. Diba? So, pwedeng magamit yung idea of service para manalo. Generosity is good, but without goodwill, giving goods to people may be used with the wrong motive, as when a politician willingly gives money to voters. Pwede mong sabihin, wow, ang bait ni mayor, ni governor, ni bibigay ng pera. Generous sila. Pero, hindi ito generous without a goodwill, no? Because pwede itong gamitin to convince voters na sila ulit yung iboboto. Perseverance is good, but without a goodwill, it could be used for revenge, as in cases when a poor family lost their land, so the eldest son persevered to get rich to exact his own revenge later. An ill motive. Okay. Perseverance is good. Alam natin yan, no? You work hard, no? You get rich. Yeah, it's right. However, what is your motivation? In our example here, the motivation is to get revenge. And that is an ill motive, hindi yan goodwill. Devotion to God is good, but without a goodwill, it can become a suicide bombing or simply a business which makes people willingly donate large sums of money. Alam na natin yan. So, ano nga yung good? Ayan. So, for Kant, there is only one such good motive. So, if goodwill is the only thing that is intrinsically good, because, ito, lahat-lahat yan, ay instrumental goods lang pala. Okay? Kagamitan lang yan. Ano talaga yung good motive? Okay? Sabi ni Kant, there's only one. Should be out of duty. So, the only intrinsically good is goodwill. Tapos, lahat-lahat na ay instrumental goods? Tapos, ano yung motive na good talaga? Kasi hindi enough yung goodwill. Dapat good din yung kanyang motive. Out of duty. We can have a lot of motives for doing an action, but the only good reason or motive is out of duty. That means we do the good because it is our duty to do so, nothing else. Acting out of duty is simply out of respect for the natural law itself. Excuse me. That means you willingly do something good because you value the moral law for its own sake. So para kay Kant, yan lang yung good motivation. Yan lang yung good reason. No? I am doing this because I respect the law. Nothing more. Remember that for Kant, morality is necessary, absolute, and universal. That means intrinsically good and valuable in itself, not for any other reasons. Okay. Consider the following motives that are not out of duty. Some people do good out of benefit. Like a restaurant owner would treat his customers courteously and honestly because this is good for business. Not because it is his duty to do so, okay? But it is in accord to duty but not from duty, di ba? Hence, for Kant, not moral, meaning walang moral worth. Another, some people do good not out of duty but out of feelings, okay? Like pity and compassion. A person gives alms to beggars because he feels pity for them, not because it is his duty to do so. Again, it is not from duty. Some people do good out of desires for what? Recognition. A person gives donations to typhoon victims because he desires recognition, not because it is his duty to do so. Again, not from duty. I hope you see the difference. Okay. So, mabubuting mga gawain ito in accord but not from. Okay, magkaiba yun. Pag sinabing in accord, it is doing good. Pero ano yung motive mo? Saan nanggagaling yung ginagawa mo yan? Ano yung dahilan mo? Okay. And the only good dahilan, the only good motive for Kant is out of duty. And that means you respect the law because it is good. It is moral. So there are these types of human actions. May mga actions na morally good. Ito yung done for the sake of duty out of a goodwill. Okay? Ano yung morally bad? Done in direct opposition to duty. Ano yung neutral? Ito yung mga neither opposition to duty nor for the sake of duty and not in accordance to duty. Like, what? Breathing, di ba? Digesting food, neutral yung mga yan. Okay. Praiseworthy. Ito yung mga actions na in accord with duty but for some other reasons, not out of goodwill. So for Kant, ito lang yung merong moral worth. Kasi, sake of duty, goodwill. Ito, in accord with duty lang. Pero, iba yung reasons. Okay? Hindi siya out of goodwill. Ito, evil din talaga ito. Hindi morally bad talaga yan. Hindi na nga out of duty, hindi pa goodwill. Ito, no worries. No, parang natural physiological processes yung mga yan. So if there is only one good, that is goodwill, because of which any action can be good, which chooses as motive and reason only one's duty to respect the moral law, then what determines that duty? So, saan nanggagaling yung duty? Di ba? Anong sinasabi ng duty na yan sa atin? What does duty consist in? What is the basis that demands our duty? Okay. So, if ang good lang talaga is goodwill, because the motive of a goodwill is it respects the law, this is out of duty, saan nanggagaling yung duty? Ano ang sinasabi ng duty sa atin? Ano tong gagawin dapat natin na rinirespeto natin? For Kant, this cannot come from experience, as the consequentialists argue. For ethics must have an a priori foundation. Again, a priori, remember that? Prior to experience, kaya na nating intindihin. No need to subukan. We can know it even without experience. Only in such way can morality be universal and common to all rational persons. Kasi pag may experience kasi, kaya sinabi ko noon, kanina, may possibility na hindi tayo pare-pareho ng morality later. Okay? For morality to be universal and common to all rational persons, it must be understood through reason alone and regardless of experience. Kaya nga ang tawag dyan ay a priori. Diba? Regardless of experience. It cannot also come from desires, for that would contradict goodwill. It cannot also be from inclinations, for it would lack moral worth. Again, if it is a natural inclination, wala siyang moral worth, di ba? Kasi naturalesa natin yan. Hindi rin pwede sa desires, kasi it will contradict goodwill. Remember, goodwill is the only thing that is intrinsically good. Okay? A will that determines all other goods, like intelligence. Okay? A desire can use intelligence for other reasons. Like desire for money can use intelligence to make drugs. Okay? I hope napanood nyo na yung series ng Breaking Bad, di ba? A chemistry teacher who was diagnosed with cancer. So he just wanted his family to survive. So gumawa siya ngayon ng napakagandang shabu. Anyway, nasa Netflix. Pag bakasyon, panoorin nyo if you haven't watched it. So, Kant, it is derived from the maxim that determines it. Yun. So, ano ba tong duty? Anong sinasabi ng duty? Ayan. Yung duty daw nanggagaling yan sa isang maxim. Now, very interesante itong maxim na to. Why? Because, let's move on. And hindi talaga nagsabi si Kant ng mga specific rules. Anong sabi lang niya? A duty comes from a maxim. Ano yung maxim? A maxim is a general rule or principle of a reason. Okay? That a person provides for his or her particular act. Ito yung rule. Kaya siya deontological. Ito yung rule na basis ng action mo. At ito yung rule na source ng duty natin. Okay? Na kinoconsider ng goodwill. Kaya good yung action. A maxim becomes moral when it is a principle that determines a moral action. It does not rely on experience but known through reason alone. Our moral duties then are determined by maxims that are concerned with morals. But what then is that maxim? Yan nga. That determines our moral duties, because of which a will can only be good. And remember, balikan natin. Okay? A will is the only thing that Kant considers as good. Nothing more. Kasi other goods can be used, 'di ba, for evil purposes like intelligence, 'di ba, fame, honor. Now, this will, which is the only intrinsic good, is good if it does something for the sake of duty. Okay? So, saan nanggagaling yung duty? Ayun, sa maxim. Okay? Again, ano yung maxim na yan? Yan nga yung interesante rito. No? Very interesting tong hindi nagsabi si Kant ng specific maxim. Kant did not mention any particular maxim that determined our moral duties, but he gave us a test to check if a maxim or any maxim we can think of can be a moral law. That means, each person can formulate a maxim that can determine an action. So, pwede kang gumawa ng maxim kung gusto mo. But that does not mean that such maxim can be necessarily held as a moral law. Sige, gawa ka ng maxim mo to justify your action. Pwede naman, di ba? Ngayon, moral law ba yung maxim mo na ginawa mo? Yung rule na ginawa mo, moral law ba yan? Hindi tayo sure dyan. Okay? Paano natin malalaman kung moral law yung ginawa mong maxim na guide sa action mo? This test for maxims that can be a moral law is what Kant called a categorical imperative. A maxim that is a moral law must be imperative. Okay? It commands us. And not only that, it must be categorical, meaning singular and unconditional. Okay? Like do good. Very simple, di ba? Intuitive, immediate, and absolute. Okay? Para mas clear, baguhin natin yan ng kulay. Intuitive, immediate, absolute. No conditions, kaya nga unconditional. This is to be contrasted with plural and conditional or hypothetical maxims such as, if you want to go to heaven, then be nice. Diba? May condition, then be nice. If you're not nice, you don't go to heaven. Okay, so a moral law or a maxim that you can create, whatever it is, bahala ka. You use your creativity to justify your action. Ito lang. Is it a moral law? Well, that depends. If it passes the categorical imperative test. First, must be imperative, it must command us to action, and second, it must be categorical. Singular and unconditional. Para intuitive siya, immediate, and absolute. Okay? Moving on. So the following are the three principles or general properties that an acceptable moral rule must possess. Any maxim must be tested against these principles if a maxim is to be a moral law that can determine our moral duties. Okay, so these are the three principles. Act only on that maxim whereby thou canst at the same time will that it should become a universal law. Okay? So ang first condition ay pwedeng maging moral law yung maxim mo kung pwede mo siyang gawing universal law. Imagine mo nga yung maxim mo, tatanggapin mo bang pwede ba yang tanggapin ng lahat ng tao sa universal law? Like for example, umutang ka and you promise to pay. Unfortunately, hindi ka nakabayad. So, gumawa ka ng maxim to justify your action na you can borrow money but when you meet some difficulty, it is permissible that you may not pay. Okay, that's a maxim. Try the first condition. Can you will it that it can become a universal law? If it becomes a universal law, what happens? Paano kung ikaw yung inutangan at ginamit yung maxim sa'yo, di ba? Pwede ba yun? Siyempre, that means hindi na siya pwede universal law kasi pag pala hindi ikaw yung umuutang, hindi pala acceptable sa'yo. Kung ikaw pala yung inutangan, hindi pala acceptable sa'yo. Second, act as to treat humanity, whether in your person or in that of any other, in every case as an end, never as merely a means. Simple lang to. No? Your maxim is moral if it does not treat other people as means or instruments or kasangkapan. Okay? And third principle, act as if you were always through your maxim a lawmaking member of the kingdom of ends. Well, complicated ang statement pero ang ibig sabihin lang yan is make sure that your maxim is readily accepted by all rational individuals as rationally conceived, and they can understand it and accept it as a moral law. Okay. If your maxim survives these three conditions, then it is a moral law. Okay. So, anong nangyari dito? To clarify Kant. Okay. Kant's Deontological Theory, Categorical Imperative, clarifies to us that there is only one good, intrinsically good, goodwill. Because this goodwill alone can make other goods really, really good. Kasi other goods are instrumental only. Hindi sila intrinsic. Kasi intelligence, perseverance, all of these are instrumental goods. But without a goodwill, pwede itong gamitin for evil purposes. Or for evil, it can have evil consequences. Ang dami nating ang gagaling na engineer, di ba? Pero kinokorrupt naman yung project. Ang dami nating matatalinong politician, intelligence. pero corrupt. See? So, what is really, really good? A good will that acts out of duty. Yung kanyang motive is respect for the law. Hindi pwedeng other than that. Okay? Like, I want to do the good kasi I respect the law. That's it. Good yun. Or, I want to do the good because it makes me happy. Ayan, iba ng reason yun, no? Okay, iba ng reason yun. Okay? Ngayon, ano tong content ng duty? Ano ba talagang gagawin natin na moral? O, di bahala ka. Gawa ka ng maxim. Gawa ka ng moral principle mo kung pwedeng moral principle siya. Wait, paano natin malalaman na pwede siyang moral principle? Yan. Categorical imperative conditions. Okay. I-test mo yung maxim mo kung pwede siyang maging moral law. These are the three principles actually, no? Before we end this discussion, clarify natin. The first principle is the principle of universality. Any maxim you can formulate yourself can stand the test of this principle and be a moral law if your maxim is universalizable. That means you can will consistently that everyone would act on it. That means your maxim must be impartial, no? Universalizable, and duties must be equivalent to those of everyone else, and there should be no exemption. Yan ang ibig sabihin ng universalizable. Okay. Second principle is the principle of humanity as an itself. Any maxim you can formulate yourself can stand the test of this principle and be a moral law if your maxim would not treat persons as a thing or a means to an end, even for the good of another. For Kant, since a person is rational by nature, every person then has intrinsic value, dignity, and worth. Each one is good because of this value and not because they can contribute something to society. So, ang isang tao, valuable siya, by worth siya, even bago siya maging benefit sa society. Kaya hindi siya pwedeng gawing kasangkapan or gamit lang or ginamit mo lang siya or ganun. So, your maxim can be a moral law if it won't treat people as objects. Okay. Being rational means the ability to understand the world around them and to use reason to guide their lives, especially to achieve a good moral character. Yan ang dignity and worth ng individual. And the last principle, autonomy. Any maxim you can formulate yourself can stand the test of this principle and be a moral law if your maxim can be freely chosen and understood by every rational individual as a moral law that can determine their duties and hence can be acted upon freely as well out of respect for it. Okay. Na pwede mo kasing sabihin, moral law to itong aking maxim. Na-survive niya yung tatlong principles. Hintayin mo na dapat, okay, every human being will accept it through their reason alone. Hindi pwedeng yung dahil nahihiya lang sila sa'yo, oo, pare ko, tama, moral na yung maxim mo. Or takot sa'yo, boss, okay boss, moral na yung maxim mo. Hindi pwede. Dapat, each individual will use his or her own reason and would recognize na talagang moral yung maxim mo. As rational beings, everyone is a maker of a universal law. That means no reliance to external authority regarding what constitutes a moral law, be it God, the state, our culture, or anyone else. Kasi every being as rational has this capacity nga to understand morality. As rational beings, we are perfectly capable of discovering these moral laws ourselves, autonomously, without guide from any other. Reliance on any external authority is heteronomy. These actions have no moral worth even if these actions conform to moral actions. Criticisms against this theory. Well, it cannot resolve conflicting moral rules. Ito yung unang problema rito. Kant's theory does not have a way of resolving the conflict between your duty to tell the truth and your duty to keep your mother safe in cases when the truth may harm her, for example. So, para sa theory na to, gagawin mo pa rin yung tama. Paano kung dalawang tama yung nag-conflict? Ayan, hindi siya kayang sagutin ng theory. Walang kasagutan sa theory. Another criticism is, as regards the moral worth of an action as only out of duty and nothing else, critics claim that this is too unrealistic and too demanding, di ba? Wala daw moral worth pag hindi out of respect. So, even if out of pity, helping victims of calamities is still as a moral value even not out of duty. Kasi we are beings with emotions and not pure reason. So, medyo masyado mataas. Medyo unrealistic. Very ideal yung idea ni Kant, sabi ng ibang critics. And as regards the moral worth and dignity as based on rationality, this seems to exclude individuals who suffer from impaired rationality and other creatures which can be moral patients. Remember yung unang discussions na